Hello, I'm Toycat, and if you try to speak to the only other humanoid character in Minecraft, you'll find the one language they speak is capitalism. Trading with villagers is one of the best ways to access some of the game's rarest, most valuable and unique items. However, knowing which of the 13 villager trading types offers what and how to actually get them is something that's a little bit harder, and so today I figured I would start with the basics and work our way up to every single trade that Minecraft has to offer, because this is the ultimate guide and today we're tackling trading. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, as all the YouTubers say at the beginning, but let's start with something big today. Here is everything you can get from trading with villagers. Rather than trying to trickle feed it to you, here is everything you can get. You can save this in one image if you want to know every single possible trade you can get from villagers, and there are over 80 of these, but just keep in mind that this counts all of the enchanted books as one item and all of the different enchanted axes and swords and armors also as one item. There are actually hundreds and hundreds and hundreds if you separate these out, so this is everything that you can get if you have emeralds, and then over here we have everything you can trade to villagers to get emeralds from them. So here are all of the items, and as you can see, it is a fairly big variety of items right here, but some of these are really only useful for creating emeralds, and so basically the way you can look at this video is everything over here can eventually, in some large quantity, be converted to the things over here if you just have the right types of villager, which is pretty powerful to say the least, right? So yeah, that is what we're basically going through today, how you can convert that into that, and we'll start with the very basics because this is something you'll need to know about every type of villager, because the available trades that you can get from a villager depend on the level. There are 5 different things that you'll see on the waistband of a villager. This one is the basic level, it's a novice. Then you'll see the apprentice level with a kind of woody looking one. Then gold for journeyman, our expert is emerald, and then we'll see diamond for the master. If you see a villager with diamond around their waistcoat, they will offer you every single possible trade, whereas if you see one that is a novice, he's likely just been changed and will give you just 2. And the way that trading works in Minecraft is you get 2 things, an input and an output. Basically, this librarian will turn everything in the left column into things in the right column. So 24 paper will be turned into 1 emerald, which we can do like so. Then if we have 13 emeralds in a book, we can turn that into a book with impaling 2, which will also do just like that. So that is the basics of trading. If you come to villagers with the right resources, they'll give you emeralds, and if you go to villagers with the right number of emeralds, and sometimes a book, it is very rare you need something else, but if you come to villagers with the right number of emeralds, they'll give you a bookshelf or a book, or indeed any of the things we'll be diving into with this video, because the type of villager, like I kind of alluded at before, depends on the actual blocks that are nearby them. So if you have a blast furnace nearby, you'll find an armorer. These will also just spawn around villagers because those villagers come with all of these blocks by default. This is an armorer, and as the name might suggest, he will give you armor if you give him emeralds. So in this case, as you can see, if we just had 5 emeralds, we could get an iron helmet, which sounds like a good deal until you see that, wow, we need 15 coal for every single emerald we want to get. Pretty nutty if you ask me. That's Java asking to update, which is very ironic because I'm over here on the Bedrock version of the game. Just keep in mind that Java trading doesn't look like this and looks a little bit different. I think a little bit less tidy personally, but that's my personal preference. But this video will cover everything that is valid on both versions. So yeah, if you start with an armorer, he doesn't seem very valuable, but as we move him up from the basic novice trade, he'll give me not just, this is where he'll give you iron. If we move up to the next level trades, he'll eventually start offering chain, boots and chain leggings. These are rare armor types that are very hard to find in the wild, but you can trade for them. Also, bells, if you want them. By the way, you can hit the bell for this channel. Look at me being a good YouTuber and reminding you to do all the normal things. But also you can buy things like shields, or indeed you can buy the rest of the chain set at gold level. But once you get him up to emerald or to diamond level, up to the very highest, you'll be able to get diamond armor, and it will always be enchanted. It might not be the best enchantments. Unbreaking one is, it's nothing to sneeze at, but it's not always the best. But at diamond level, you get the diamond chestplate, the most valuable individual piece of gear that you can trade for from the armorer. Very, very, very powerful, and it will give you, as you can see right here, 4 whole armor points by itself. This is something which is incredible and is worth keeping in mind. Speaking of keep in mind, the butcher will be around if you have a smoker, because the smoker is the meat version of the blast furnace. It's it's much less used and much less useful, honestly. But yeah, this is the butcher. As you can see, he is a bit of a wild card in my opinion, because he's really, really, really useful in the early game. You can trade your raw pork chops, which you might find all over the place, and you can get some emeralds. So I'll show you what this looks like. Here are some pork chops. We've got these buttons to simulate me going out into the wild and killing pigs. So I've now gone and killed a bunch of pigs, and now he'll offer me two types of trades. One of these is for the rabbit stew, and one of these is for cooked chicken. So cooked chicken is pretty great by itself. I mean, I can basically turn 7 cooked pork chops into 8 cooked chicken, which is a nice enough trade by itself. It means I don't have to cook if I don't want to, but it gets even better than this, because if I offer him even more, which we'll do right now, we'll make the very unadvisable trade of using coal. It's one that feels like it's a good idea, but just isn't as a pro tip here. But if I sell a bunch of stuff to him, then he'll offer me more ways to make emeralds. The butcher is quite unique as a villager because he really has 2 trades, which he offers you very early on: rabbit stew and then cooked pork chops or chickens, and the rest of them are ways to turn food types into emeralds. So you can turn raw mutton into emeralds if you want to. We'll get some raw mutton. You can turn raw mutton into emeralds, you can turn dried kelp box into emeralds, and you can even turn sweet berries into emeralds. This might be one of the easiest early game ways to actually farm emeralds, because sweet berries are not very useful by themselves, but they are very easy to farm. The same is true for kelp, and so just keep in mind, you can turn a near useless item into something much more useful if you want. Speaking of things we want, let's go through all of the trades now. I think we briefly went through them, but cooked pork chops is by far the most valuable, I would say, and otherwise it is just emeralds you'll get from the other tiers, because he buys things from you, which is interesting to note. Next up, we have the cartographer. The cartographer is, he's got a monocle on. I know it looks like he's had one of his eyes, cyber replaced, and he's a bit of a cyborg, but no, that's not him. He's just a lovely guy who loves maps. Wait, is this me? Am I a cartographer? Anyway, Mr. Cartographer over here will actually give you some maps to all sorts of fun places. At the first level, you can see there's the empty map trade, but eventually he'll offer Ocean Explorer, Woodland Explorer, and Trail Explorer maps. So to show you this right here, we have on the first level, he'll give you emeralds for your paper, or he'll give you maps. Then on the second level, he'll offer you some emeralds for your compasses, or you can give him a compass and some emeralds to get an Ocean Explorer map. This will help you find the Ocean Monument, which is a somewhat rare structure. It's not anywhere nearly as rare as the Woodland Explorer Mansion, though, which is found with the Woodland Explorer map. These are often tens of thousands of blocks away, and having a map will allow you to go in the right direction. In this case, as you can see, it's that way. That makes a big difference. Having a map is huge, and if you want to find either of these structures, having a map is preferable. And I would say in this case, it's probably on the edge, but if you're already trying to find these anyway, that's the way to do it. The cartographer is the most underutilized villager for these things, in my opinion, and if you want to get yourself some efficiency boots, now's the time to maybe trade with him. Anyway, once you get to the highest levels, you can get any colored banner, and you can get item frames. I can't say anyone really wants that, or banner patterns by trading with him, which is kind of fun if you ask me. Speaking of kind of fun, next up we have the, so again, you can see we've got giant versions of each of the blocks. This is a sideways brewing stand, which is fun, and if you have a brewing stand, you'll get the cleric. Fun fact, when they added the cleric to make the brewing stand spawn in villages, it gave us our first real taste at being able to just find brewing stands out in the wild, which is pretty fun in my opinion. Anyway, the cleric is really useful, mostly for speedrunners, but you can also use him as a way to get rid of some valueless items. Let's be honest, if you, look at the things he trades with, by the way. It is a very weird and eclectic mix, but let's be honest, rotten flesh is something which is very, very expensive in terms of, or very, very cheap in terms of what he offers you a price for, but the fact that he'll buy this at any price is kind of nutty. Also, it is one of the few areas where I'd recommend buying things from a villager that you don't necessarily want just to get through the tiers. This is something that is often done in speedrunning, because by just spending, say, 15 emeralds here, you can get up to the tiers where some very valuable things become available to you. Because again, it's very hard to find a bunch of rabbit feet, it's hard to find a bunch of turtle scute, or really a bunch of any of these things that isn't gold. So if you can get a ton of gold and just trade that for emeralds, and then use the rest to get your way to the top, you'll be able to buy ender pearls. This is the best way to find ender pearls for most players who aren't willing to do the crazy piglin trading route. This is the best way to find it, and the safest way to find it until you go to the end. So if you're looking for a way to go to the end and you don't want to deal with killing endermen, this man has already done it for you. Thank you very much, Mr. Cleric. It's a bit rude of you to turn it back on me. But yeah, at this point, I should mention that villager trading is what is often spoken about when it comes to the 13 villagers that we're referencing today. But there is also the Wandering Trader, we'll come to later, and there's also, technically speaking, piglin bartering. This is not the same as trading. It's like going to a McDonald's drive-thru and giving them money and then throwing a random thing at you. But piglin bartering will give you any of these items, and it's a very fun way to potentially get a lot of ender pearls. It used to be a lot better in earlier versions, which is why people often speedrun 1.16.100, and it also is something which just can be used to get some valuable enchantments, but just keep in mind that otherwise the piglin bartering is just a great way to get fire resistance and a few other items that are otherwise non-renewable. Speaking of non-renewable, let's move past all of the trades we've got from the cleric here and into the composter. Wow, look at the composter. This is the farmer villager, and the farmer villager often gets made fun of because he'll offer me money for potatoes, let's say. Emeralds is obviously Minecraft in-game currency, but he'll often be standing right next to a huge field of, in this case, not potatoes, but you get the point. He'll be standing next to lots of the food item, but the trick is he's paying you to harvest it. He is a rich farmer and he doesn't want to go out into the fields and deal with it, and so what he'll do is he'll pay you the money to pick up his wheat or his potatoes for him, which I think is a good deal. It's one of the easiest starting trades because you don't need anything besides what you find in a village to make this first trade happen. This first one will often be, by the way, as we'll find out right here, the first trade will be emeralds in exchange for any of the 4 types of main crops, and then he'll offer you bread, which is probably not worth taking. You'd be better off just taking the wheat and then turning it into stuff, unless you really want to get the experience of the villager, which is obviously how you get up to the different levels. Anyway, with that said, the second level will offer you pumpkin pies, which is nice. It's a kind of tricky to craft item, and apples. At the 3rd level, will offer you cookies. At the 4th, you get suspicious stew. This can be really valuable, or cakes, which is again kind of niche valuable. But at level 5, it's a 50-50 as to whether he'll sell you glistening melons or golden carrots. Golden carrots are the most valuable food source in the game, in my opinion, and so if you want to get them, it's this guy. I could argue the rabbit stew is also pretty valuable, which is obtainable from the butcher, but golden carrots are the most long-term useful, and they also stack, so just keep in mind, golden carrots, it's the food you want, but you won't find them from a fisherman. The fisherman will obviously give you money for your coal. Pro tip, if you ever wanted to make that coal trade, this guy will give it to you much cheaper than anyone else. It's kind of funny how often you can trade coal at different rates, but also what Mr. Gentleman the Fisherman will do here is do something quite fun, which is he will take your raw cod and some money, and he will offer to cook them for you. This is a very, very bizarre system that he has, but he will take your raw... basically, he pays you for a cooking service. It is a good way to get up the levels if you really want to. I can't say that I would necessarily recommend it, but if you really want a ton of campfires, as you often will on Superflat, if you want to go up to higher levels where he'll offer you enchanted fishing rods, this might be the way forward for you. But again, I would say this is mostly for wealthier players. I don't think most people really need to have their fish cooked that badly, and if by the time you've got enough fish for him to cook at that point, you probably have a decent fishing rod anyway, because fun fact, if you want an enchanted fishing rod, you can fish for it. Anyway, one of the fun things about trading is that, yeah, as you can see, he comes in 5 different levels. He'll offer you cod in a bucket sometimes, which is mostly valuable for the bucket, I find, or cooked cod. Then he'll offer you cooked salmon and the campfire. Then a enchanted fishing rod. This is rare, unique, and can come in so many different flavors. Actually, what did it come in right here? Let's find out. So after trading with him, we got Unbreaking one. Not very rare or valuable, not worth the time, that's for sure. But the highest levels, he'll only buy things from you. So again, it's more of a profit center villager than one that gives you valuable things, which is kind of the opposite, well, actually, kind of the same thing for the Fletcher, except even more intense. So the Fletcher's table of use is the fletching table, which is the only one block out of the 13 villager blocks which does not have a use yet. It is going to have a use one day, they said, all the way back in 1.14, but who knows when that day will be. So the Fletcher over here is very interesting because he will trade sticks in exchange for emeralds. This is nuts because do you know how you get sticks? You go and chop down a tree, and every 4 wood blocks you chop gives you 16 planks, which gives you 32 sticks. And so in effect, every 4 trees you chop gives you 1 emerald. This makes it the favorite amongst speedrunners and amongst people who are just looking to get some emeralds to turn into some blocks. And honestly, if you just spend 1 productive productive session chopping down some trees, you'll do pretty well from it. A bamboo farm can also turn into lots of emeralds, and so this is one of the villages you shouldn't sleep on. And also it's worth mentioning, just in case you love his trades from him, and he's not just a profit center for you, you can buy bows, and then you can buy crossbows, and then later enchanted bows and enchanted crossbows. You can also get tipped arrows in all of these variants, interestingly including the decay arrow, which isn't available elsewhere in survival as best I can tell. And so just keep in mind that if you keep trading with enough Fletchers, you'll get some cool enchanted crossbows, but also maybe get some cool enchanted arrows you wouldn't expect to get elsewhere. And let's be honest, they're tipped arrows, I should say. They're not actually enchanted. Although, you know, what's the difference between a potion and an enchantment when you really get down to it? But speaking of potions and enchantments, next up we have the level worker. You need to give the level worker, you're never going to believe what he wants from you, the level worker. He wants leather. And if you give him 6 leather, you'll get 1 emerald, which means if you trade with him 7 times and give him 42 emeralds, you'll have enough to buy a chest plate, a leather tunic to be precise. They're not called chest plates. And yeah, this is one of the worst value trades I think that can exist. But if you already have those 7 emeralds from, say, trading 28 logs with the Fletcher here from 7 separate stick trades, this can be a better deal than going without armor, I guess we could say. Also, just as a fun thing right here, I'm gonna have to get a lot of emeralds for this, but if you do go up to level 3 on this villager, you get one of the worst level 3 trades ever. It's just a repeat of the level 1 trade, but dyed in a different color. Do we want that really badly? I can't imagine anyone says yes, but just in case you do, this is the guy. Also, at level 4, he'll offer you leather boots and a leather hat, and at level 5, you'll get leather boots or a leather hat, and at level 5, you might get those leather trousers. Honestly, this is the weirdest villager, and I don't quite understand him at all. Also, sometimes he'll offer you leather armor, but again, just craft these things with the leather that you would be giving to the villager, and you'll probably do much better from it, because yeah, I can't imagine anyone's going up to level 5 on a level worker, except for the sake of maybe completing all of the villagers. Speaking of completing the villagers, next up we have a librarian. The librarian is by far the best. Seriously, take a second out if you have any reservations about trading so far, because you're like, well, do I need, you know, we had a couple of bad villagers in a row, like, do I need to have enchanted crossbows, or do I need to have leather trousers? You need to have the librarian. This is the fastest way to trade for many enchanted books. So the thing that most people will do is they will break and replace this over and over again, which is something you can do, by the way. He's going to run off if we do that, but it's something you can do, and if every time the villager decides his career path, he'll give you different trades. This is something which is very, very useful, to say the least, and it means that because one of the trades that he can offer is enchanted books, and he'll offer it as his level 1 trade, as you can see right here, enchanted book. It means that if you just keep re-breaking and replacing his workstation over and over again, you might eventually get the enchanted book you're looking for, because instead of being based on level, there's enchanted books at level 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to level 5, where it's just a name tag. Instead, it's just a wide range of books which seemingly appear at random. So here are the enchantments you can get from the villager. As you can see, there's one exclusive to the Java edition, and you can get them from, and by the way, also you can see 2 which you won't be able to naturally enchant onto your tools. This is very valuable, but most people are going for the one without the capital M over there, and let's be honest, Unbreaking is pretty darn good as well. If you heard that you have to go to a certain biome to get those trades, as of the recording of this video, it is not true and isn't going to be true for the rest of 2024. But yeah, just check the comments, and if there's a pinned comment saying, oh, yeah, watch out for it, then do. But otherwise, don't worry about the biome. He can offer you any trade in any biome right now. Speaking of right now, here's a mason. He is a very lovely fellow, and I'm sure it's a coincidence that he's named after his job, but what he'll offer you is very fun, because you can trade with him clay to get some emeralds, and then you can get some bricks from him, or you can get some chiseled stone bricks from him, or you can get some diorites. The number of blocks you can get, any type of glazed terracotta, any type of colored terracotta, the number of blocks you can get is one of the wildest, and so that makes the mason pretty darn good for getting different block variants. He's your guy if you want to get weird items, and let's be honest, we all want to get weird items sometimes. Like, seriously, chiseled stone bricks, when do you even use those? Also, something that is kind of notable is the fact that you can obviously, if you go mining a lot and you just pick up a lot of stone, if you have a silk touch pickaxe, you can use that stone to turn into emeralds. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this, but if you have literally no other use, then why not, right? Same with clay. If you aren't going to use the clay from a lush cave, then why not use it with him? Speaking of using with him, here is a shepherd. The shepherd is a lovely guy who will buy lots of things from you, but mostly wool from the common types of sheep. No pink wool, sadly. And yeah, this makes him very weird because he offers to sell you the tools, the shears, for 2 emeralds, but then you have to shear 36 wool just to make back that money from the shears, and you have to go through a lot more. And what do you get as high-level trades in exchange for this? Well, you get shears, okay, and then you get wool. Okay, well, I mean, you have to sell that to him, so not that good. You get beds. I could just craft that with 3 wool, which I could, okay. Then we get banners. That's just 6 wool. And then you get paintings, which is extra dumb because it takes just a single wool and sticks. I have no idea who wants the shepherd. There is probably a niche world where you have a lot of sheep and not a lot else, and you just want emeralds. But I can't see this being the most useful thing for basically anyone. So now we're in the penultimate 2 of the video, so it's worth mentioning that Toolsmith is a type of fella who will give you tools. He needs the smithing table, which was also useless until 1.16. Come on, Minecraft, give us a fletching table update, will ya? Anyway, with that said, the toolsmith will give you tools, like the stone axe. At level 1, you'll get the stone axe, the stone pickaxe, the stone shovel, and the stone hoe, and then you can obviously trade with him. What can you trade? It's coal again, at a worse rate than the fisherman. You can also buy from him bells. They're so expensive. You can see it right here. A bell's going to cost you 36 emeralds, or you can give him iron. So getting past level 2 is pretty hard with this guy, but it is worth doing if you can, because you'll get enchanted iron tools, sometimes a diamond hoe, you'll get enchanted diamond tools, and then at the top level, you'll get enchanted diamond pickaxes. This is nuts. I remember when 1.14 first came out, I went crazy thinking I'm never going to need to mine diamonds for pickaxes again because I can just use these. Obviously nowadays there is netherite, and so you could argue that it's not the be-all end-all, and obviously you could get the perfect enchantments you want from your librarian, but I think it's crazy that this is a thing, and just keep in mind that toolsmiths are expensive but worth going through. The same is true for weaponsmiths, just to a little bit of a lesser extent. The weaponsmith will give you weapons for a slightly higher price, but they'll start at iron instead of at stone. So I would say if you have emeralds from the other villages anyway, come here and then pick up a sharpness 2 sword. It's a great pickup from any village, and it can be really handy because I guarantee whatever sword you have, it's not as good as this in the early game. This is the equivalent of a netherite sword just being handed to you for 17 emeralds with no trading required, not even 15 coal. That's good. But yeah, his trades will look pretty familiar because you can get the 2 things we just saw, or you can buy bells for too much, or you can get a diamond axe. It'll be enchanted with combat enchantments, usually. Actually, let's confirm that it is. Here is an axe we traded from a villager, and as you can see, its sharpness and its efficiency. Efficiency is a bit of a weird one to have at level 1 mixed with sharpness, but also you can get an enchanted diamond sword. It'll be enchanted with random levels. That is every single type of villager that you can find naturally in Minecraft. There are unemployed and nitwit villagers, but neither of them will actually give you anything. They don't speak the language of capitalism. Or maybe they do. Maybe there's a darker point that Mojang's really trying to raise about them. But instead, what you might actually find interesting is that there is a wandering trader, and the wandering trader will need emeralds to trade. There is basically nothing else you can do. They looked into bouncing him as well, but they never got around to it. And so here are the things that he will sell me. He has been around the world, and he is therefore looking to make some emeralds from you. What does he do with those emeralds? Nobody knows. I've heard a rumor it's to fund his nasty drug habit. But you know, the point here is to say is that there are lots of items you can get from him too, and for one more look at an item frame wall, here it is. Every single item you can get from the Wandering Trader. If you want something from this wall and you don't want to go to the biome where it's at, then wait for a Wandering Trader to spawn, keep some emeralds with you, and you'll be pretty darn happy. This is weird to look at a Wandering Trader's face like this, but it's also been weird to go through every single village trade today, but I enjoyed it a lot. I hope all of you did too. One of the fun things about making these videos is I feel like I learn something about the trading as I go through it, and I didn't realize just how invaluable, wait, the opposite of invaluable, just how not valuable the shepherd was until this video, and I also realized that I've been undercounting the butcher, and really, I would say, still undercounting the toolsmith more than I even realized before, and so this video has kind of inspired me to make sure I don't do those things in the future. But what do you think is the best trade that you've seen so far? What do you think is the best villager that you would like to trade with? And what is the trade that you didn't know about before? I'd love to hear your responses. But for now, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and be sure to check out the rest of the Ultimate Guide if you'd like to learn more about Minecraft. Thank you, and goodbye.